Welcome to Full Incarnations. This podcast is part of the journey towards the Erotas 2026 Symposium in Portugal. Here, we open conversations on birth, consciousness, and healing, exploring how the very first moments of life shape who we become and how reclaiming those beginnings can transform our future. We are so glad you're here. Let's begin.
Hi, I'm Roberta. I'm your host for today. And I'm really glad to have here with us Dr. Regina Hess. And Regina, I will read because it's really long. She has an enormous knowledge and wisdom. So I will read your bio, but you can tell more about later. So Regina is a clinical psychologist and transpersonal scholar whose work researches far beyond conventional psychology. She's founder and director of Birth in an Ancient Future, a multidisciplinary initiative dedicated to healing, peace building, and planetary consciousness. And even I'm touched by this part, and I'm really thankful for you doing this job because it's really important. Her work weaves together pre and perinatal psychology, transgenerational healing, indigenous wisdom, embodied practices, and expanded state of consciousness. Regina teaches internationally, and she's part of the faculty, the Aleph Trust in the UK. She serves in leadership roles in many boards linked to transpersonal, European Transpersonal Association, International Transpersonal Association, Vice President of the European Transpersonal Psychology Association. And she's deeply committed to multidisciplinary approach and to this way of bringing transpersonal to the world. She's a sacred activist and she works with conscious parenthood, and she brings a lot the idea of, not just the idea, but she lives that, the idea of restoring the right relationship with the living earth. I might have missed something, but my pleasure is really to be with you, Regina, today. And thank you for being with us.
Thank you very much, Roberta, in Alma School of Transpersonal Studies in Lisbon,
Yes.
Portugal. It's a pleasure to work together.
Yeah, it is. It is indeed. So I will start with what is your work, and your organization is called Birth in an Ancient Future, Multidisciplinary Council for Peace Builder. What does it mean for you? How did you arrive to that?
First of all, we start in the present and then go backwards. That's the outcome of 30 plus year of work. So where I stand at the moment, also as an elder, shamanic elder, spiritual elder teacher, it is really like the distilled work of 30 years of therapy, self-development, teaching internationally, that I have arrived at a place to say we need to take it further into the world. Yeah, the first step is the psychotherapy, the self-development, the healing and awakening. But I would say where psychotherapy falls too short is to really take it also on a collective and planetary level. And so that's basically a calling that I received 5 years ago, like at the threshold of becoming a shamanic elder teacher, to say, okay, now is the time that I, as an elder, need to support to bring this to a collective and planetary level. So it was really like a vision, a calling that I received. To really create such a framework, focusing, which is all my work, is really creating a framework of integrating indigenous ancient wisdom traditions and modern sciences. It's really my strength. I have a lot of knowledge collected here. And so the calling was, first of all, to bring this together in order to create a more all-encompassing framework for the future. And then this name was basically like a channel, like a spiritual vision received, birthing an ancient future. Ancient future really means that ancient indigenous traditions traditions, intertwined with modern psychological sciences and beyond. And then the birthing is really like, I'm a female scholar. I'm really here to represent the goddesses and the knowledge of great mother traditions. And so the calling was, and even become more explicit now as an elder grandmother, so to say, to say I am here to really bring a feminine lens into the work and a feminine perspective, even stronger than before, and also, like connected to shamanic ancient wisdom traditions. All life is born from a woman. All life is born from a female womb, and from that place. This calling came to create such a platform. It has this core focus of inner work. I mean, that's the starting point of any change and any awakening. But at the moment, my focus is more to integrate ecological projects, also political projects, leadership, governance projects, to actually bring that inner awakening and inner healing work to a level of leadership and planetary well-being and cosmic integration, and very much also focusing on artificial intelligence, quantum computing projects, because I strongly believe it is not a question if we need to take responsibility. So I feel clearly this new revolution of artificial intelligence need to become part of all our work. There's no question if we want or not, or if we like it or not. It is a necessity. So I feel that's like really the bigger picture of things now is birthing an ancient future. And within that is a very strong focus, trauma-informed, clinical shamanic approach.
Yeah. There are a few things that come up to my mind while you say that. It seems that you are being a good ancestor. So it seems that you're bringing from what is back in our history, and you are preparing the future with that. So I'm really touched by your work and by how much this can touch lives. And I'm curious about to know a little bit more about your work, because you talk about the integrative way, the multidisciplinary way of your work. I'm curious to go a little bit deeper into what you bring.
Yeah, I mean, here's really important to talk a little bit about my background. So I'm a clinical psychologist for 30 plus years, specialized in trauma work early on in my work, but really in a clinical scientific setting. I worked in University of Heidelberg, and we had huge research projects there. Also in psychiatry, worked with most severe cases of individual trauma, collective trauma. I'm coming from Germany, so I work all my life with World War I, World War II, Holocaust trauma. So I think that's the strength that I bring, that somehow I came with this power to look at the disaster, to look at unbelievable destruction, with the calling to say, I'm here to bring light, I'm here to make things conscious. So I think that's important to understand where I'm coming from. So all my life, like 20 years explicitly, I worked on Holocaust healing, Holocaust transformation, collective transformation of trauma worldwide. That's also my PhD dissertation. And then we did quite some research studies at that time at University of Heidelberg, and early childhood trauma in adults, including all forms of trauma. But then what we found in our case study analysis was that the trauma does not start on an individual level. In more than 80% of the cases, the parents are already severely traumatized, and the grandparents. So at that time, that was quite groundbreaking in the 80s, to say we apply a transgenerational approach. So it came really from our case study data to say, okay, so it's not enough to look at adults' individual trauma biography. We need to see where their parents and their parents come from. And here already I started weaving in then indigenous knowledge. So indigenous knowledge system usually say trauma, also like collective, more severe cases of trauma or incidents, have impact 7 generations back and forward. We could not do 7 generations, but we found out that at least 3 generations backwards, that means parents and grandparents, give us already a pattern of trauma. So I developed then together with others really a specific trauma analysis creative tool to actually analyze with the clients the trauma back. And then suddenly we had much more healing successes just by opening the space for a transgenerational perspective to say the trauma does not start with you, it starts long ago. And let's look at the pattern that first of all was passed on to you from your parents and grandparents, and also, of course, trauma related to parents or grandparents, to say it is not, we are not born like that, we become like that. Your parents are traumatized, and in that way they passed on the trauma. Your grandparents have been in World War I and II, for example, and in that way they passed on the trauma. So suddenly that enhanced such a level of healing that was pretty unexpected for us. So that was really a one step of the research study. Then we applied that in the therapy, much more success. And then it went even further, especially for me and a small group of researchers. And then we came to a point to say it's not enough to look only at early childhood trauma in adults. What happens in pre and perinatal psychology. That's how I came to specialize in that field of pre and perinatal psychology. So then we started case study research to say, okay, let's collect data about, was it a one where you wanted child? How was the love relationship of your parents at that time when they conceived you? What do you know, or what can you imagine about time in the womb of your mother? How hard was the life, or how happy? What difficulties? What do you know about the trauma of your parents that was already analyzed anyways? Yeah. And then, of course, the whole birthing process, very much based on Stanislav Grof's birth matrices. We did draw on that work here for analyzing the birthing process. And then we had a lot of huge research study on that, and then even had more success because what we found in working with adults in early childhood trauma, when the therapy does not work, when the trauma is therapy resistant, so to say. Yeah? So we said, okay, but maybe it's not a limitation of the client, but maybe it is that we have not reached a deeper layers of the trauma. Yeah. And in that way, again, like it was 80+% that then actually the more severe cases of therapy-resistant early childhood trauma, once we expanded where possible, into this pre-perinatal exploration, again, we had much more therapy success suddenly. And that's how I developed. And over time, it was really through my intense clinical practice. And it felt really like a mixture of complete devotion to the work, really, but also really getting insights like from a higher source. Yeah, it was like one puzzle coming to the other to say, wow, let's go back, let's expand the clinical framework. And once I arrived then in the pre-perinatal analysis, then it was clear, it has to come through the woman. I mean, the whole work, the whole analysis has to come through the exploration of how is the experience of the mother and what happens in the womb. And also it's my critique in Stanislav Grof's work that the pre-perinatal is so much overlooked. Yeah, it is. Then, when it remains in a rather patriarchal, masculine-oriented world, the prenatal is usually way too overlooked. So then really came a calling to really promote that also as a divine feminine and as a feminine approach to say we need to integrate perinatal psychology. Yeah.
Integration is clearly the key word of your work. And it's beautiful how you make treasure of your own story. You were talking about World War I, World War II, and how the place you were born and lived in a certain way enhanced your way of looking at things around and finding new ways. And how beautiful is also the idea of the needs. I felt a lot of strength when you were saying it needed to be a woman to bring another aspect, and not just about the perinatal, but the idea of birthing a new future, an ancient future, right?
Yeah.
So you're really carrying this with you, and I think it's something that can be really innovative in a way. So it brings something new and ancient at the same time. So
Yeah.
thank you for doing that. It's
Yeah.
really, it seems that it's the essence of your work.
And then maybe to add really the aspect, since we already talk about that, so we maybe can conclude that also. And then later on in my work, I specialized in, when I studied for my PhD in the US, I started specializing in psychedelic therapy. And again, I studied in shamanic, traditional plant medicine settings, and then training in Switzerland with the leading experts in psychedelic therapy. And then I developed my own approach in a interweaving Gestalt therapy is my background, and shamanic knowledge systems and clinical knowledge systems for transforming trauma pattern, starting in pre and perinatal analysis, and develop my own protocol. This will be also the content of the post symposium teaching. It's basically teaching the protocol and then experiencing the protocol, and based on this like 20 plus year at that time, 20 plus years of trauma work, I've developed a very concise way of really exploring the trauma pattern, then with the help of expanded states of consciousness, be able to make it conscious and be able to transform it to some extent with the client. And so this has become a very powerful tool. So my work to the psychedelic therapy, it was really based on all this work, clinical trauma work, in such an expanded integral transpersonal framework, and even integrating then mainstream psychedelic science into such a framework. Now my focus has shifted more on really governance, leadership, political work, but that's definitely a core that I bring. Yeah.
So you were talking about this involvement in political work. I'm curious because one of the things you talk about is activism, sacred activism. So I would like to go directly there, and then maybe we can go back a little bit more on the pre-perinatal phase. But since you're bringing, I would like to go there because I'm quite curious about that.
Yeah, it is. The more it's really also again my own life process, that of many colleagues that I also guide or accompany and that accompany me. The older I get, first of all, the better I feel. I think I really want to be a role model also for aging, but let's say aging in a sense of awakening until we die. Yeah? There's no end. There's no stop to it, and developing until I die further. And I feel now I have reached, first of all, I've done so much self-work that I feel there's a certain saturation, yeah, but also there's a calling. I feel that with the maturity and the wisdom and the knowledge that I have collected, to be there even more explicitly now there really for the world. And now it is kind of, I mean, I had always this ambition and interest to work also really towards leadership, yeah, all politics, economics, all these systems that reign our world. But now since the artificial intelligence revolution started, now it feels like it's not anymore a question, it's a responsibility, and we cannot look away from this. And whatever we can do now to implement healthy training systems, yeah, for artificial intelligence, also quantum computing, yeah, working in multi-dimensional worlds. So my psychedelic work helps a lot here to be just really consciously able to be in parallel worlds at the same time, as quantum computing teaches us now, and to say, okay, there's a small window that that things can be implemented for good in a constructive way, but we really need to do it. And so that it feels that's an unexpected turn of in my life in this lifetime. I feel to say, wow, artificial revolution is so big and so fast that we all that we live at the moment on the earth, we all are confronted with the impact of it, and we need to do something. Yeah.
Yeah. This is your way of being a sacred activist, clearly. And yeah, I do understand in the time we live. And you said something that I think is really important. That is, we all have a responsibility to bring our path as human being and as therapists into the world as as part of the movement, because life is moving and we are responsible also for this movement. And I was thinking, so obviously we had questions prepared for you. Um, and we talked about the activism. You talk about restoring the right relationship with earth, and I think is also one of the key elements of your work. So, and before you were already talking about the idea of the earth as mother. So I would like to hear more about that, if it's okay for you.
Yes, of course. Yeah. So that's also, of course, based on my whole world integral transpersonal framework or ecological framework, shamanic traditions. Everything is integrated and moving beyond the human-centric world. Yeah, acknowledging nature, including the plant world, the animal world, the mineral world, and then, of course, the whole cosmos. Yeah. So that's like I would say, in a nutshell, we could say modern time made us so separated from the whole. Yeah, we are part of the whole, but we are living in the illusion that we are separated, and that's of course really an outcome of modern times, especially Western societies, but modern time societies, and we destroyed basically human-centric world, destroyed the damage that we have now, including ourselves, maybe the extinction of nature, but nature is able to recover, but maybe humans not, we don't know yet, yeah. And so in a nutshell, I would say also what I see for leadership work, governance, political work, is to say, okay, we need to come out of the illusion of separation. That's how we destroy the world. That's how we cannot continue, especially also not in relation to the artificial intelligence revolution. And in that way, let's bring together the things, and we don't need to invent the wheel. The ancient sciences, indigenous sciences are there. We have all the knowledge. We can wrap it up into modern brush up. Yeah. So I'm not saying we need to go back 4,000 years. I'm saying let's utilize all the knowledge already there and brush it up into modern times here and now. And in that way, be able, from that place only, we can transform politics, economy, da 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 da.
Yeah. I'm curious because when you talk about this illusion of separation, and I do understand, and I understand also, and I feel the urge, like you do, of um, of reverting that and going back to a right relationship to who we are. We are nature, right? So. I would like to understand in your work and in your heart, what can we do every day in our everyday life to bring back this relationship with Earth?
I mean, first of all shamanic traditions start with our ancestors. So first practice is like, okay, I would not be here without my parents and my grandparents and my ancestors. Yeah. And then, of course, we take it beyond just the bloodline of ancestors. Ancestors mean all humanity on earth, for example. Yeah. So I would not be here if they would not have been here. Yeah, so we can acknowledge a lineage that we usually have lost, ancestral, yeah. Acknowledgement, I mean, indigenous traditions have a lot of rituals to celebrate the ancestors. in modern societies, we have rather lost that. Yeah. Then simple practices in nature, just connecting with a tree, going to a park if we live in urban society, or of course going to a forest or going to the ocean in Lisbon or something like that. And just really celebrating, for example, the cycles of nature, the rhythms of nature, day and night, the moon, the sun, the stars. So in shamanic tradition, it's just like to say thank you. There's another light, there's another day. Or thank you for the rhythms of nature, for the seasons that are also mirroring our life, yeah, things like that. And then easily we can connect to the feminine. I mean, the moon is the cycle of the woman menstrual cycle, yeah, is the governor of the feminine. The earth is also feminine, yeah, and the earth's womb is basically mirroring the womb of a mother, yeah. So in that way we can just really worship in a very healthy, very simple way to say, okay, earth mother, grandmother, we say, yeah, and feminine, where all life, first of all, is pregnant with and then gets born, yeah, and that we all share this experience. And then, of course, for the future generations to say, okay, we cannot stop in the present moment. We all have a responsibility to take care that life continues after me, yeah. I would say also the older I get, the stronger I feel that. I work a lot with young people, young students around me, to say, okay, I see my life already continuing through you, yeah. And to have much more, again, also here, small rituals to say, okay, do you want that your children or other children or future generations can have a life on Earth? I guess most of the people will say yes, no? And so we can, small rituals of gratitude, I would say. I teach very much just simple gratitude practices to say, just let's say thank you, yeah? Let's have a breath and become conscious and say thank you, yeah? Or say thank you that I'm healthy, or thank you for what I have. I do the best I can in this moment and for the future. Things like that.
Yeah. It seems really simple what you're bringing, and how easy is it to forget how easy it is for us to connect to ourselves and to Mother Earth or nature. It's like mirroring what is inside us and what is outside us.
And I feel that's also really a medicine, simplicity. And also the older I get, the more I'm absolutely convinced simple little things will make a difference in our world. Nothing big and complicated, nothing expensive, I also say without money, it does not cost anything, this kind of, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, that's true. That's true. I would love to talk more about that. And I think we shouldn't have just one episode with you, like a series of episodes, because I have a lot of question about this connection to nature, these with the sacred activism.
Maybe we can make some grandmother series. I would love that.
Thank you for saying that. Yes, you're inspiring me. Okay, well, let's think about that. Let's feel it. What I would love to ask you is also maybe going a little bit back to your studies and to your journey as a transpersonal psychotherapist, and also the idea of being involved in processes where you bring your own responsibility, you bring your own knowledge. And what I'm feeling is that it's important we talk about also all the association and institution have been part during your life, because I think maybe I'm wrong, but it seems that the responsibility, it has been always with you in this field of transpersonal psychotherapy. So can you talk a little bit more about your involvement in the association?
Just a brief story to give some flesh to the bones also. So I was more than 20 years already, or 15 years, clinical, really research, scientific clinical research. And then I survived the tsunami in Thailand, 2004. I was traveling. and had a full-blown near-death experience. And then when I came back to life, there was really a calling. Wow, I got a second life in this lifetime. Yeah? It was a miracle how I could survive in that big wave. Yeah, and then the calling was, you have to become a spiritual scholar, yeah, not only
Okay.
clinical, yeah. And you have to be a female scholar, and you have to combine the spiritual and the psychological and the medical and the anthropological. And then after the tsunami survival, then I went to the US and did my PhD in California in transpersonal psychology, and a second part then in UK. And then when I came back to Europe, then that was the calling. Okay, the transpersonal field, integral transpersonal field, is my platform, is my home, is my tribe. In order to be able to still convey the mainstream clinical scientific, but also really expand it into integral transpersonal framework. So, once I came back to Europe, I just immediately had the chance to join the board of Eurotrust. It just happened, poof, like that, yeah. And then at the same time, basically, I also joined the International Transpersonal Association, which is based in the US, but also has worldwide colleagues. So it was already, again, a calling. For sure, it is like I'm an activist, I'm a thinker, I'm a complex thinker, female thinker in the sense of not only practice, quote unquote, but really how do we actually structure the world, and how do we structure programs, trainings that they really have impact in the world. So it was always that I work on a meta level. Yeah, I was never only a practitioner. I always teach, yeah, at universities, and I'm always like a futurist, yeah, for working on a meta level. How can transpersonal help to make the world a better place and develop further? And then over time, I will become also vice president in the Eastern European, yeah, Transpersonal Association. And now we are even in the moment, at this moment, to put all big transpersonal associations together and make it a world federation, World Transpersonal Federation. I'm leading that project, and I would say that's really my spirit. For example, I'm not only specialized in one method. I don't have just my own school. Yeah, I have my hands in many institutions. I have my hands in many organizations. So the calling is I need to be more than one institute. I need to be more than one method. Yeah, and now we are founding this World Transpersonal Federation that I lead together with other co-founding colleagues. And I feel that's my spirit, and I feel that's the power that I bring. I'm very egalitarian, I'm supporting the whole, yeah, versus specialized in one method or one school only. Yeah, so yeah, that was the platform, that was the calling to expand from clinical scientific into transpersonal integral. Until then, spirituality was my private life. I even sometimes had to hide it. I mean, in hardcore scientific fields, there's no time to talk about spiritual experiences. So it was after the tsunami survival, the calling that it's not my personal hobby, but that spirituality need to be brought back into science.
Yeah. Spirituality needs to be brought back to science. Yeah, that's it. That's what we do. We try to do as a transpersonal schools and therapists. You talk a lot about bringing back the feminine or need to be a female. So maybe the people that are listening to us, they don't understand what the feminine means, right? Bringing back the feminine. What do you mean about that?
Yeah, I mean, we are all, of course, traumatized by very patriarchal dominated societies in modern times. So what patriarchy did in a nutshell, it became too masculine, the masculinity dominating the feminine, and then basically the shadow aspects became the rule, and the shadow aspects of the masculine is domination and control, and making the feminine small. That's basically what happened since the scientific revolution, yeah, to make the feminine small and try to keep it small, and to come in totally disbalance, yeah, of the different energies, and this is the price that we all have to pay. Also, masculine is also traumatized as much as the feminine. So, in a nutshell, it came in modern times totally out of balance, the feminine and the masculine qualities. Yeah. So the masculine in shamanic and indigenous traditions is definitely seen as providing structures, building structures, strategic, linear, rational thinking. Yeah. Versus then the feminine is the womb, yeah, is the earth womb, is the womb of the pregnancy. The feminine is like the time of gestation, yeah. And the feminine is especially the relationship, the umbilical cord. Without umbilical cord, there is no life. So the primal, the most strongest power of the feminine is the umbilical cord, metaphorical speaking, is relationship. I mean, if the umbilical cord would not hold life, there would be no life. Yeah. And if the feminine would be not so strong to be able to give birth, there would be at least no birth through a womb, yeah, of a mother. So that's kind of the power. And in that way, of course, also other powers like being able to bleed and not die, yeah, all these powers that are feminine, that men don't have or don't experience, to keep that small. Of course, then also the feminine will be very creative, very dynamic. So in that womb of gestation, the original power is creativity, yeah, dreaming, creativity, dynamic chaos, yeah, until life forms and is born. Yeah. So, yeah, in a nutshell, we can say both masculine and feminine need to find their healthy ways. Again, what are the archetypal qualities, first of all, and how can we bring them in a harmony and balance in the whole world on all levels, including nature and cosmos.
Yeah. Thank you for bringing that. And I think it's from here that we can start talking about the theme of the symposium. So the pre and perinatal phase, bringing the idea of creativity, creation of the womb. So can you tell a little bit more of what you're bringing? No, wait, before I would like to hear more about, you told before, but I want to refresh it, about your work linked to pre and perinatal phase.
So as I said, it really came from this expanded trauma work. First, we expanded in a transgenerational perspective. Then we came to that insight based on research to say, okay, let's even go into the pre and perinatal analysis of trauma patients at that time, and that completely, totally inspired me. First of all, also for myself, or I did like extensive work also for myself, for ancestors, also very much focused on therapists. Yeah. How can you actually learn to work with clients in the sense of working through your own stories, etc. And we had then groundbreaking results. So it was suddenly that in that work, then pre-perinatal transgenerational lens, that we could reach trauma that we could not reach when we only look in early childhood trauma. Yeah. And we really like common things are really where you want a child, where that forced sex, not necessarily rape already, but like the female body was not ready yet. Yeah, this kind of we call it sperm shock in pre-perinatal science. The female body is not yet ready. That can lead to a sperm shock. Yeah, the sperm penetrates and the female has a no. Yeah, that has impact. That's a pattern that we can easily see in clients. Yeah, then other patterns, of course, how happy, unhappy was this relationship or marriage of your parents. Did they only stay together because they got pregnant, or this kind has huge patterns. And then we always look, how were the relationship of your parents? How were the relationships of your both grandparents as a love relationship? What what patterns were passed on the level of love relationship has lifelong impact. Yeah? And then, of course, even more extreme things. Where was there hardship during the pregnancy? Was there even violence? Of course, all these things have huge impact. And then, of course, the whole birthing process. As I said, I work primarily with the matrices from Stancroft. They are just really helpful and handy, but very much focusing. Pre-perinatal is as important as, the birth process. And translating this in early childhood trauma, then we can say early childhood trauma is already repetition of earlier trauma. And then we had much more success in healing. And still, I still do this kind of work also. And once we reach the patterns of pre-perinatal consciousness, then even more profound healing is possible. And then on another level, also now more recent research, I found it really amazing to say that now research can show about the sperms. Now, so far, it was a very much masculine assumption that the fastest and strongest sperm will penetrate the egg, but it's not true. Actually, it is that the egg selects, let's say, with certain metabolic and certain indicators, which sperm will be best for that egg. So that again, that's a feminine perspective, and I feel that's exactly what we need and what we lost in modern times and what we need to install back. But also not only to empower the women, to especially also empower the men, because the masculine, they lose their power as much so when they live in the shadow of just domination and control.
Yeah. And you were mentioning the idea of love being in a certain way the center of the way a child can be healthy, they can come healthy into the world. And you were also mentioning how the ancestral line or the ancestral birth can also influence the pre and perinatal in someone. So can you talk a little bit more about that?
Not only can, will. This all information is there, is in the field, is in the womb, the patterns, even behavioral patterns that we take on. Yeah. So it's not about maybe can they, but it is like in the field, collective field. Yeah.
Yes.
Of course, it can be patterns that are rather supportive and positive, and it can be patterns that are destructive and that carry trauma. So it's always both. And in the trauma approach that I developed, it's very much like that. It is the first part is more like wounding, trauma, analysis of destructive patterns from ancestors, and then as much so the other part, what talents, what gifts, what was actually good, what was the strengths in your parents and your ancestors, what did they achieve, things like that, to come also really to an empowerment, resilient approach. What could they manage well? What did they achieve? Usually these are also factors of when we are the first time to be able to develop further than our parents. Yes, so things like that are very much resilient, empowerment oriented. Then very much also looking in early childhood. How were you as a little child? What did you enjoy playing? What dreams do you remember as a little child already, to become? Because usually there, when we are born, a part is still innocent, a part can remain original, a part can remain innocent. And of course, in this work, also with the help then of expanded states, to reconnect to this original me, beyond patterns that we all get. Nobody is free of getting patterns from our ancestors. It's more like the more we can peel that off, the more our original soul or spirit, or what you want to call it, comes forth.
Who we are. We truly are. Yeah. Thank you for bringing that. So now I'm really curious about what you're bringing to the symposium.
Yeah, I think basically in a nutshell, I will have a lecture there, a keynote lecture that will really give this, I will make it very storytelling like. Also, it's really based on my work, on my research. It's based my lived experience, yeah. The transgenerational lens, how we then came to the pre-perinatal lens, how then psychedelic therapy helped me work actually with such states, because of course pre-perinatal states, of course we can in holotropic would be a method, or certain levels of guided meditations, shamanic journeys, etc. The power with psychedelic interventions and therapies, that for many hours we can stay in such expanded state. So that's why I developed basically this protocol that I then will teach in the retreat, the teaching protocol and the experience of it, basically primarily for therapists who already have quite some substantial experience and background, and so that make it really first of all theory research based, yeah, transpersonal, transgenerational, pre-perinatal framework. And then will be the teaching of the practice, especially for professionals in the retreat.
So you're bringing two things: a lecture in the symposium, during the symposium, and I would like to hear the title of the retreat because it's beautiful, and I want you to say it.
From the cosmic wiggle to the awakened incarnation on Earth, or based on Earth.
Yeah.
On
I
Earth.
like the idea of the wiggle. So can you
Yeah.
tell about more
Yeah.
about that a little bit more?
Yeah, I mean, in these psychedelic intervention protocols, I work very much on this moment. I've developed a guided meditation that has that name, from the cosmic wiggle. Like if you imagine that moment before conception. That's
Yeah.
of course the spiritual concept, yeah, that our soul is there as energy, yeah, and then magnetized, yeah, into this parent's conception, yeah. If you try to come a step even before the moment of conception to connect with our original spirit or soul, and that would be called the cosmic wiggle, and then we allow, or we decide to be incarnated into this parent's conception. Yeah.
No, that's a beautiful image. When I read that, I was like, cosmic wiggle is so nice. The idea of something is like moving.
Yeah. And also really to connecting with a core essence of ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? It's very touching. It's also like usually can be quite cathartic on the one hand, or quite like such a joy. I also often say it's like tears of joy from that cosmic wiggle, when we have moments where we can connect with what feels like. Of course, we can only subjectively say, wow, I feel like I connect with my essence. Yeah, so that can be very empowering and very healing. Yeah.
It's interesting. While you talk about that, I feel it's not just interesting. I can feel that movement inside me. So maybe we go back to that small practices that we were talking before, like small practices every day. How would be if each one of us could connect with the cosmic wiggle within every day? It's like small step, but it's
Yeah.
gigantic, right?
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing that. I think it can be really enriching, not just the symposium, but also our way of looking at us, looking at what we are, who we are, right?
Yeah.
I have a lot of question more, but we said that we will keep it like
Yes. Yeah.
around an
Yes.
hour.
Please.
So let me just check if I have a question that I want to ask actually. That is, it's more about. It's linked to what I was saying. I have a lot of questions here that I noted, but I just want to ask you this. So it's if listeners, that people that are listening to us feel a resonance or something here resonating, like I was saying, what would you say that would be important for them to do in their daily life? But also, as an invitation to the symposium, what could you tell them?
Yeah, I feel if there is some kind of movement, that's a good sign. Also, I would say, both ways. that maybe some part of your essence is responding. Yes, some part of your essence is saying, yes, 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 I'm here. Yeah. And some other layers will respond that are maybe more, trauma-oriented, wounding, blockage-oriented, to say, yeah, if there's some resonance, pre-perinatal, probably that is a good closing also, like pre-perinatal psychology is a very small and very young field, like, we say like 200 years kind of to really have officially such a field. There's quite a lot of more research in USA, and some research in Europe, also in Germany, for example. Yeah. So I think that's important to know. It's very small field. In mainstream clinical psychology, it's not acknowledged, not prenatal, not perinatal. Stanislav Grof is not acknowledged in clinical mainstream psychology. So it's more like on such a level of frameworks and theory to say, I have the courage and the luxury to actually look at an expanded framework. Yeah? And I have the courage to say, but why should we not look at pre and perinatal? We all have this experience. Yeah? And why should we say there's no impact is there? Why should we say that? So I feel on a theoretical level, there will be a lot of valuable information in the symposium, especially the lectures and then the workshops. You can get for sure some input also on your own topics. Yeah? And for those who are professionals, for sure you will get inspiration for your own work, maybe, or maybe specialize further. And then the retreat is really like a very intense, very condensed version of going really diving deep really into uncovering pre-perinatal layers.
Yeah. So let me just pause. Yeah. So Regina, thank you so much for being with us. You brought a lot in such short time. You made me really curious about what you're bringing to the symposium, to the adventures you have to tell. Your storytelling is amazing, so I'm really curious about meeting you, seeing you again, because we met before in person here in Lisbon, and yeah, maybe the grandmother, the great grandmother series will come, because I really feel that can be something important for us as a collective now. So thank you for being with us, for your love, for your passion, for who you are.
Yeah, thank you, Roberta, and everybody there, team, and Alma School of Transpersonal Studies. And I'm very aware that really Alma School is contributing a lot of important work, and clearly also divine feminine and feminine perspective, of course. And you all holding that space, I can immediately feel that also. And it's really important. It's needed. It's a small niche, but even more so, more important. And I think it is for sure very valuable, inspiring for also really a general population to expand the horizon. So thank you so much for that beautiful podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us in this episode of Full Incarnations. For more information and to register, please visit our website. Until next time, may you walk gently with your beginnings and fully into your incarnation.